It's time for our number one story of the year. It's a tough one. There's always been violence here in New Mexico, certainly, particularly in Albuquerque, but this year was different. The death of 4-year-old Lily Garcia in a road rage incident led to many conversations in our community about violence, guns and repeat offenders. There were also shooting death of APD officer Daniel Webster and Rio Rancho police officer Nigel Benner, among other shootings in the city. And there was a lot of attention on a deadly shooting at the Los Altos skate park here in Albuquerque as well. And Rob, violence is on people's minds right now. Certainly, there's a pent-up demand right now for change. And let me put this out there. 2015 seemed to be the year that something about violence, our indifference came to an end here in Albuquerque. We are no longer indifferent to this due to a number of things that happened the year before, certainly with APD, all that kind of thing. Where are we now with violence? Folks seem to have had it at this point.
Yeah, they've had it, but I don't know if things are going to change.
Right.
Let's hope so. Mm-hmm. Let's hope for in a new year. When we discussed this, among us, right, talking about leading up to this program about what was the number one story, this was what I suggested was number one, because to me this goes beyond the typical political back and forth, Republicans, Democrats, conservative, liberals. This is something, and one of the odd things about it is I've heard that the statistics, the violent crime statistics in Albuquerque are actually down, but just that the brazenness of so many of these cases have really struck home. And when I was preparing for this program, I don't know about the rest of you, but I was like, okay, Officer Webster, yeah, he was the one with the motorcycle. Benner was the one with the vehicle registration. And there were so many of them, you almost became numb to it.
Right.
And also there was the case of the teenagers who shot the bartender in his own his own garage. These has happened at such a rapid fashion that it's almost too much to comprehend.
Tripp, Rob makes a good point. I'll throw another one in there too. What really lit off folks here was home invasions. There's something very, very, very unsettling about the idea of a home invasion that I think really set people off this year. Almost like a step in violence that folks went, wait a minute, there's a whole other deal now where you're talking about coming into my home, It
was extraordinary for me to watch this was, of course, in 2014, it was all about APD.
That's right.
And shooting, and the lineup, this kind of tension in the community. And then in 2015, some of us are reminded that it's a very difficult job, actually, that police officers, that law enforcement are in. And that makes, because human beings are involved. Human beings are fallible. This is a very tough conversation to have in a state, politically, nationally. And then I wonder, I wonder about economics, i.e. tough economy. And I don't know if there's scholarship around this, but I wonder sometimes, I think this is true, when you do have a tough economy, violence sometimes does rise. I know we're coming out of something, but I will be honest with you, I was watching this national conversation about police officers being killed and reading Radley Balko on the Washington Post kind of like saying, well, the year has not been that bad for police officers, although the hype is really bad. And then we had 2 officers killed in this area, so it was kind of like, I'm still sorting this out, actually. And then Lily Garcia, that's a whole different matter. Because as a father, I was reading that kind of going.
And it shocked the community. I mean, again, that's another moment where folks say, okay, enough is enough here, the Lily Garcia thing. Interesting, Russell Contreras, we had Hector Balderas, Attorney General, here at this table just a couple of months ago talking. He mentioned that he wants to see more resources really strictly targeted to this and getting more communities much more vigor here. That's good to hear from the AG, but are folks hearing enough from other folks that says, look, we can get on top of this. We can make this turn around here. Because people want to feel like there's a chance to do something here.
Yeah, I mean, the police chiefs and the sheriffs have been saying we're facing a shortage in officers. Very few spots are fully staffed.
That's right.
Whether you're in Hobbs and Albuquerque. And the violence transcended Albuquerque. It wasn't just Albuquerque, it was all over the state. And a lot of the offenders were repeat offenders. So statewide, people are like, we got to get a hold of this. I mean, in case after case, you could pull someone up in a high profile case, you would see they were convicted of another crime, released early, or what didn't go through the proper adjudication, and people got angry. I think the call for more resources is going to have to transcend locally. It's going to have to go back to the legislature. If you're serious, you got to put your money where your mouth is and fund some of these places. Give officers more incentives to become officers. Keeping them at this low salary, you're going to attract only a certain mind of candidates, someone who's dedicated to this, but they won't see it as a career for advancement. It isn't a sure door into the middle class anymore. more. You're going to take it and you're going to be at the bottom. So you're going to have the totality of this discussion. Here in Albuquerque, you have a shortage, but you also have a shortage in Hobbs. You also have a shortage out in Farmington. So this is a statewide issue.
That's right. Interesting, when I think about Santa Fe, Julianne Grimm, on Russell's point, affording to live in Santa Fe on a cop's salary can be a difficulty in Santa Fe, and that's part of the difficulty in attracting police officers there as well. You know, it's interesting how when you, statewide, getting away from Albuquerque, again, you know, folks are looking for relief here, really looking for relief of some sort. And so in your sense, in your reporting, is there something on teed up that you can see that we're going to make some changes here? We've got some changes in Albuquerque. We're going to redeploy some officers, but statewide, are you sensing a vigor to have something?
I mean, I really think that what Tripp said is important here, that when people are frustrated because they can't find work, they're frustrated because they feel like their voices aren't heard in the democratic system, they're frustrated because they feel like their priorities aren't matched by the priorities of the government.
Right.
I think that, you know, these things are all related. I can't help but wonder how much of the violence that our community has been, you know, victimized by, how much is that a reflection of the violence that we celebrate in entertainment? How much is that a reflection of the militarization of local law enforcement agencies and sort of people reacting to that? How much is it a reflection of there being little accountability for police officers and sort of people saying, well, let anarchy prevail. If the cops can kill people without consequences, why can't we? And I think all of that is really heartbreaking, and it points to our inability to talk to each other and to hear each other's struggles, that it gets to this point where, you know, people just shoot each other.
Well said, absolutely. You know, what's interesting about this, what Julianne just mentioned, Rob, in that the idea that, look, those two officers who mentioned, they were killed by repeat offenders. You know what I mean? And so folks have a very much a right to say, hey, okay, hang on here.
Right.
Hang on here. What's this repeat offender business going on? And this is part of the bigger problem, isn't it, in this whole idea of violence here?
That's a major layer to the story. I mean, there were, and the instances go on and on. Just was it a couple of months ago? There was a woman who was beaten up by her boyfriend, left in critical condition, and he gets out on bail.
That's right.
Now, again, you can go through all the different reasons why that happened, point fingers and stuff, but I think people want some accountability, not only from their government, but also from the people who are there to protect and to serve them.
Right.
And that includes, and I think that was another angle to the story, was that circle of, it was expanded beyond, like what Tripp was saying about the Boyd shooting from last year, which was a big deal, and the police, the rise of the quote warrior cop. This year there was a different angle to that story, I've said before that I think the breakdown of the family is the chief reason for that, but I don't know how do you correct that through legislature, through legislative action? But so you're going to have to start going with small bites, and so you're going to have to start getting things like 3 strikes and you're out rules. I'm not crazy about a curfew, being someone of more libertarian streak, but I think it's going to happen because
I'm glad you brought that up.
Because
however.
people are going to say we need to do something.
That's right, and this is always part and parcel of it. You know, there's a reaction. People want action.
So can I, just kind of not respond, but kind of piggyback on this? I think those of us who have covered kind of big stories throughout, one gets the sense that, we're really wrestling with how complex these things can be, actually. It's not just that cops are bad or, there are a bunch of repeat offenders out there. There are, but there's also a lot of discussions around how many repeat offenders are there, 50, 100 each year, versus how many bad cops are versus good cops. This is complicated stuff. As far as the 3 strikes thing, remember, California just did away with this. So, I mean, this is not, if we're going to go the other way, we have, remember that other states have done 3 strikes, and they've talked about, busting prison budgets and, overcrowding and other things like that.
Is it just an emotional reaction to you when you see things like 3 strikes and curfews
and
stuff?
Yes.
And these unreasonable reactions?
I mean, in some ways, and I'm not saying they're not legitimate emotional reactions, but I think you also have to combine emotion with real strategic thinking.
Right. Let me go back to Russell and go back to Hector Balderas, because he also said in that interview, he mentioned drug intervention, he mentioned all those things, societal ills that Julianne mentioned just a second ago, we have to have a holistic approach, is what he's saying. It has to encompass a lot of different things.
And the evidence is there when the Secretary of Corrections says half of our inmates are Hep C positive. Right?
Right.
Or Hep B positive.
Hello.
Forget it.
Yeah.
So that's a reaction to something. That is alcoholism, that's black tar heroin, that's a number of different things.
That's right.
Those people are going to jail, and if you're hooked up on opiates, you're going to do some crazy things. That is not being addressed. And then if you do a 3 strikes law, and what Senator Pacheco's doing, or Representative Pacheco's doing, is saying he's looking at California to make sure we don't make those same mistakes. I'm going to go after the offenders. Immediately he was hit by the Democrats saying, wait a minute, you're not taking account to a drug addiction, who will push someone, and that push may put him in a felony charge.
Right.
So all that totality needs to be there, and I think in addition to that, you have to address mental health. We don't have a Kendra's law. We have very few beds. That even Mayor Barry saying, look guys, I need some help here. A lot of the folks interacting with cops who were involved in the officer-involved shootings were folks who had some sort of mental illness. Without that, you're basically putting this environment, one of the poorest states in the country, basically going off to another train wreck. And at each train wreck, we throw our hands and say there's nothing we can do because we're not doing anything. We're not addressing any of this.
That's right. Interesting there. And that's all the time we have. Join us online to see our full list of the top stories of 2015 and one story that caught the attention of each of these panelists this year, but we weren't able to do it here on this show. I'm Gene Grant. As always, we appreciate your time and effort to stay informed and engaged, and we'll see you next time in Focus. Get a preview of what's coming up on the next New Mexico in Focus. It's easy. Sign up for our weekly email at newmexicoinfocus.org.